Hi, I'm Mitch,
And I'm Todd.
and we are the Grizzles Geeks. Tonight
Yes, we
we're
are.
going to spoil Legion Episode 6 and the movie Logan uh, and all of its rated R glory.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties earlier, so we didn't start at our normal time with our normal show. So we're having to skip sort of to the last thing, and maybe we can get the rest out next week. So we're skipping to the good stuff, the spoilers of Legion and Logan. Before we start, I do want to say we lost an American legend today with the passing of Chuck Berry at the age of 90. Chuck was a living legend, as responsible for rock and roll as anybody. So. All right, Legion, episode 6. Tell me how much you loved it. Did you love it?
I did. I did. I didn't mind the whole, crazy asylum clockworks setup or anything like that. I thought it was clever. I loved how the intro, when she's doing interviews for each one of them, it just sort of, instead of being this long drawn out thing, it was the same conversation going continuously, and they were just flipping in between character, and it was these individual sessions with each of the people trapped in there. And
Yeah.
I thought it was a good way to start the episode. It was digging in, and it did rely on one of the tropes that you hear a lot in television or whatever, in that everything that you've seen so far in the season has been a dream, and maybe these people are already crazy. They did it in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like season 6 or something. They had an episode that was like that. It makes you kind of question, except in this case, there wasn't really any question. They just, we knew as the audience they were all in there under control of Lenny. Lenny.
Yeah, I never for a second thought that, like you said, we the audience knew better. We knew that they weren't there, that they were just escaping to his head, and that they're all trapped in there, being basically questioned by Lenny. Was it Lemmy? I can't remember.
Len.
I agree with you. I like her, the actress. She's got a lot of, she has sort of an it factor. She's compelling to look at on screen and watch her do her thing, her crazy thing. The dancing routine was really hilarious. That was good. I liked that.
Yeah, the dance number.
Yeah, as I was watching it, I thought, if they ever do Grease, she should be Rizzo. She looks like she'd make a great Rizzo in Grease. So that part I enjoyed, but I was like, is this whole episode going to be on his head again? Because I hate that, because it seems like the plot's frozen and not going anywhere to me as a viewer. When you're having a dream show or an all trapped in our head show, I'm like, not getting anywhere. That's just sort of my feeling. So I'm waiting for something to happen. I enjoyed some of it, but I'll admit I fast forwarded through some of it. There were some times when I was like, don't care. And that's a horrible viewer, but I that's what I did. And sometimes I'd see something happen, I'd stop and rewind and go, okay, what's happening? And then I'd watch, go, okay, and fast forward. So it was a little bit of a drag for me, this episode. I'm looking forward to them getting out. I thought it was interesting though when the man in the dive suit led Gene Smart's character through the wall and back into reality, and you have the spinning hot bullet there, and she can't touch it. She can't move it. For a second, I thought she was going to pull a Quicksilver, and move the bullet over, but she couldn't. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I thought, all right, she's going to shield what's her name with her body. And I'm like, well, that would be a shame, kill her off that quick. But if you had to lose one of the two of them, keep the young pretty one, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of going through the same thought process. Is she going to shield her with her body or whatever? But, yeah, her husband doing okay there.
Yeah, I just wanted to switch the wire.
Okay,
so it's not across my body. Break in the movie magic.
Like mine here. Yeah, her husband, was going through saving people, one by one, going in and pulling them out of the dream. which for me kind of answered or probably answers one of the questions I had in an earlier episode, which is, is her husband the parasite? We talked about that last time. That he went missing. Like 30 years ago. David started seeing this thing about 30 years ago. Is this guy the parasite?
And I don't think he is. I
No.
could be wrong, but I get the impression he's not. Um, One thing that about the episode that I kind of liked was that they were letting you get to know the guy, the bad guy that I don't even know if he has a name or not, a little more. You get to hear him talk. That's the first
Right.
time you get to hear him talk, when he's actually. And as he was walking around at first, she's asking him questions and he's not saying anything. I'm like, really? He's still not going to talk? And then he talks. And
And then when he starts talking, he's creepy as hell.
He's even creepier once he started talking. He was creepy before he started talking, and then he even got creepier. And so he seems to be gaining a little more self-power in the dream world there, resisting a little more than anybody else and starting to be able to do whatever he wants there, which is dangerous for the rest of them.
Right. Well, I mean, by the end of the episode, I'm not sure what status they've got in the dream world anyway. I mean, maybe Lenny keeps them around in that area in case she wants to let David out again. Okay, I've punished you, and if you're good, you can hang out with your friends. But maybe she just kicks them all out. Maybe she just crushes their minds now that she's in control. So, a couple of really neat parts in this episode I did want to bring up. So, the big reveal, I thought, for this particular episode was when she's talking to David there at the end, right before, maybe before or after, I can't remember exactly when the dance scene came in. She's sitting there, and she says, "It's not your session," and he just asks her where Sydney is. And then she kind of gets fed up with his bullshit. And then she throws him in the box. But when she's doing it, and when she's pinning him down, and telling him that she has power over him, she is talking to him, and she says, "Well, your father knew about me and tried to hide you from me. So, and but he failed, which." Last episode we found out that he was an orphan, so we were kind of worried that they were going away from the comic book origin. So it still could be that he's, and since we're in a spoiler, I'm just going to say it. He's Professor X's kid in the comics, and maybe Professor X has had some kind of interaction with this yellow-eyed demon thing before, and now he's he tried to hide them away or whatever, and now David's screwed, and it was an interesting thing. He was like, well, at first I was just going to come by and I was just going to corrupt you because I thought it would be fun, but then I found out how powerful you are, and I thought it would be fun if we just worked together for a little while. And really what she means by work together is, I'd like to ride your meat suit and control all of your powers because that's fun.
Yeah, and when she says at the end, "I don't really need your brain, I just need your body," and she locks his brain up, I guess, in a little box in the darkness, and I thought, okay, so now Lenny's completely taking over. I guess that'll be the big battle internally.
So,
I just came down to ask if you like my cock.
I don't even want to know.
Did you hear him?
Oh yeah,
He came down to show me his cock, his cock. I don't know why he has this or why he's handing it to me. Alex Fast Dry.
It's for Joe. Joe brought it.
You can't use that unless you have a cocksucker. Oh, never mind. All right.
I will have to cut out all of that.
Don't you dare. That's the magic. That's the behind the scenes magic. So that was I was kind of hoping it would do the normal pattern of where I was like, through a lot of it, and then maybe it pick up right at the end. And sure enough, it ended kind of abruptly before I thought it was going to end. Right when it seemed to be getting interesting, it gives you that funny logo they have at the end, which really doesn't fit with the show at all. Which again is one of those things to throw you
Are
off.
you kidding?
Nothing fits and nothing. The weird colors, the bright, cheerful.
That's one of the things
that
my
they
son
have.
and I love about the show.
It's-
The weird, the overlays and filters and all that kind of stuff they've got for the logo. Yeah, that stuff's great. I love it.
Did you see the living plant man thing in the background at one point?
He's in every single episode when they show the Clockworks. Every single episode. It's one of the things my son looked for. Earlier in the episode, they showed 2 scenes with the moss wall. The first one, we were like, is the moss guy in the moss wall again this time? And no, he wasn't. And then when they showed the trippy scene with, you say Jean Smart, is that her name?
Yeah, the actress.
Yeah, when she's watering the flowers and making these little things grow up from this little diorama thing that shouldn't be growing, but was kind of weird in claymation and trippy too.
Yeah,
It shows
grave.
him in the background, and he's in the moss, and he's holding a planter full of flowers. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love that guy. I don't know what his deal is, but we love him.
That was kind of interesting. So I saw that, and
Well, those
I'm
are the kind
trying
of
to,
things we were saying early on, that if you just watch the things going on around him in the episode, there are all these weird things in the background that are interesting for you to pick up on. The whole time he's in there, every single time they showed that wall in the first couple of episodes, that
Right.
dude was there hiding in the moss. Every single time.
I never even noticed it till this time.
Did you see the eyes in this one? The eyes were back?
Well, I mean, I saw it was pretty blatant at one point. The eyes that pop in.
Yeah. Right there at the end.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, so that's a theme that's coming back again.
Yeah. I'm watching it. I'll watch next week again. I'm a fairly loyal fan. My entertainment value this week, it was a little slow for me at times. I keep waiting for the show to really take off and go somewhere, and I don't think it ever is going to. I don't think it's that kind of show. I think it's you have to enjoy the little things in this show that they throw in there, that they color the show with.
All right,
And,
so speaking of little things, one of the things that I picked up on in this episode, did you notice that the illnesses that each one of David's friends have kind of matches with their powers? The guy that was the telekinetic couldn't move.
Yeah.
And, the guy that was the dream crafter guy had this vivid detail for memory,
and he couldn't get
and
out
was
of
living in the past.
it. Yeah.
So every one of them kind of had this illness or this made up illness in this world that matched up with their powers. I thought that was kind of a neat, interesting thing. The other one that I thought was really interesting. So we talked about this, and we thought that we settled on this being set in the 70s, right?
I think so.
Okay.
But-
so at one point, the dreamscape guy is talking about his mother dying and how he has this memory of her. He's talking about it in one of the sessions, and he says, I remember, I can't even get out of the memory. She's doing the dishes, and then she falls, and on the radio is 99 Luft Balloons.
Yes.
That
From
song
the 80s.
in the 80s. So when the
Yeah.
hell is this show? And that happened when he was a kid, like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So
It's
is this
all over
really,
the place.
like 2030?
Maybe everything comes back around. So maybe, all this cool hip 60s and 70s stuff that was popular back then is going to be really popular in another 10 years. I could be running around in a mini skirt in a couple of years. You never know.
So
But
leisure
probably not.
shoots.
Although I got the legs for it. I'm just saying. I had a lime green leisure suit in the 70s, man. It was like lime green with a darker green lining, like the edge lining, and it had I think it had pockets that had darker green. Oh, it was so hideous in the 70s. If I ever find any of my family photos, I will have to get one and put it up on the screen because you'll just, yes, you will retch. When you see this leisure suit I had back in the 70s, it was horrible. But, you know, a man of his times, I suppose I was.
Right.
All right. So we wrapping up Legion, or
yeah, pretty much. I mean, the only other notes that I had here that I want to bring up, what the hell's up with the sister? She's the only one that isn't a patient. She's the nurse, and she's the evil
Ratchet.
nurse. Yeah. You know, the bugs. I wondered if that was, you know, Lenny's chaos sort of seeping through. And then
is that where? Yes.
Like the pie.
That was creepy for me. I don't like bugs in my food, so that
no.
Particularly creepy.
And then, you know, last two things. When Len kept going through the door, the hidden door to the dream world, she kept going into his memories, to the places that he created, and then destroying things. Almost like she was making that space hers in taking over his powers, you know, being disrespectful to his memories and his you know, thoughts, and, you know, just taking it over. And the more she wrecks of that, the more he loses control or something. I thought that was kind of a neat symbolic thing. And then the last thing that had come up and we had thought about was, I kind of wonder if Sydney's going to die. I kind of wondered if she was going to die by the end of the episode, because, you know, we talked about you know, them not actually going physically to the White Room whenever they went there before. I wonder if David is willingly keeping himself in the dark about it being in a dream world, but subconsciously is trying to keep Sydney from breaking out of the dream world, because he knows that as soon as that she does, she's going to die. She's going to get shot. She's going to die. And he's trying to live out his life, grow old with her in that moment in time.
Wow, maybe that's kind of dark. I hope she doesn't die, but yeah, maybe that's
like
why
her.
he's trying to keep her there. He's like, let's just live here, because when we leave here, it's over for you, you know. And that could be the whole thing. He knows he can't. Although you would think he'd be able to stop the bullets, but
maybe he doesn't have enough control, because every time he's done anything amazing, he's done it because Len had control and did it for him.
And Len is not going to save Sydney.
No, because Len looks like she's jealous of Sydney.
Oh yeah,
which is creepy because Len is Benny.
Yeah, but I think Benny adjusts himself to be more easy to digest for David, so that he knew he was running out of control over him as a big fat ugly guy. So he's like, you know what? If I was a hot, attractive, evil girl, you know, wild child, I might be able to get more control that way. So,
right.
One other thing that creeped me out was the Carries.
Oh, I love the Carries.
Their relationship there is creeping me out because of the age difference. And you know, they explained in the one episode that, you know, because she only comes out occasionally, she doesn't age at the same rate as him. But just you see them together, and you're like, that's just so creepy. She's so young and he's so old. And everything I've ever seen him in, he always plays a serial killer. Like he was on Criminal Minds. I think he was a serial killer. He was on other shows. You know. You
know where I remember him from, right? Sesame Street. When my kids were watching Sesame Street, you know, 10 years ago, he was on Sesame Street. He had this little bit where he was just this goofy character on like an Elmo bit or whatever.
Mr. Noodle.
Mr. Noodle.
Mr. Noodle. Wow. That's funny. Bill Irwin.
Yeah.
Bill Irwin is 67 years old, or will be 67 years old in April.
So yeah, Mr. Noodle was how I knew him because of my kids watching Sesame Street. So yeah, I didn't watch Criminal Minds. I didn't watch any of that stuff, and so I had this, you know, this weird, innocent, goofy vision of him in my head, and then he's this kind of weird, goofy science guy in this, and it kind of just fits.
Oh, it was CSI. That's what he was on. Nate Haskell, one of the recurring villains in CSI. He was on another show, Monday Mornings, which actually I really liked. It was a medical show, and he played this doctor that it was kind of funny. He was like just an oddball. But then he also played a bad guy on Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I think I saw that one. Where he again played sort of a serial killer like character. So I just know him from Dark Things. So seeing him with the young girl, it just was a stark contrast. You're like, I hope, but I guess they're like brother and sister more than anything else. But
I mean, they
so,
are. Well, they're almost the same person.
Yeah.
All right, we
Amber Mid Thunder is her name. American-born actress.
Huh.
Amber Mid Thunder. What a great last name, Mid Thunder.
I wonder if she is Native American. Then, I mean, the story in the show is that she's Native American, and he was born to Native American parents, and she lives inside of him.
Maybe a name like Mid Thunder seems that way.
Yeah, or maybe it's some weird German or something. I don't know.
So, are you ready to move on to Logan?
Yeah, let's move on to Logan here. So just put this one in here.
So whatever I do next, just don't hate me.
So Logan's been out for a few weeks. It's almost not even a spoiler anymore.
If you haven't seen it at this point, shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you. Like, it's
me. The best. It's the best road movie. It's pretty much what it is. It's a road movie about an old aging mutant and his senile mentor and a young girl on the road. I mean, really, that's all it is. It's the essential, the core of the movie.
So, I mean, better than The Road with Viggo Mortensen?
Yeah, I never was able to finish that.
That was a hard movie to watch.
Yeah. This girl, I'd never seen her in anything else before, but it was bugging me because she looks a lot like my friend's daughter, but with dark hair.
Right.
And so the whole time we're watching it, we're like, wow, she looks just like, this girl. So it was kind of weird, but she did a really good job in the movie. I liked the movie. It was a quieter movie, not a huge, but it wasn't without its action. And the rated R really suited this movie for a going away thing. Some of the scenes were just so brutal, things they never really show. Even in the comic early on, they would hint around to what Wolverine would do to people, why some people who survived his attacks were terrified of him.
There were a few scenes where, he's cutting people's heads in half, and legs and arms are flying and falling off, and
yeah, one of the ones for me that was the grossest and most disturbing wasn't because of the when he's raging and he's doing things, it's all happening fast. It's kind of easy to take it in, but the scene where Professor X has everybody frozen and he's clawing his way up the hall, and he just slowly sticks the claws through the guy's head, and then another guy, and it's like, it's so deliberate and slow that it makes it worse. It's one thing to do it in a fit of rage. It's another thing to walk up and
cold-blooded.
I gotta push my claws through your head, buddy, and then you pull them out onto the next guy. It was such a good movie. It was a really good scene. I've tried not to gush over this movie too much because I didn't want to spoil it for anybody. But it's in my top 5 comic book movies of all time for sure. And
the character Laura also, in that same scene, in a lot of the same scenes, was even more ferocious than he is. I love the foot claw thing. And whether it really fit with the Professor X's description, the female lion has to attack and defend. It's just based on gender. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's just based on the weirdos they're experimenting, and they're like, well, if claws in the hands are dangerous, why don't we put claws in the feet too, and she'll be super dangerous. That kid could fly when she was going after people. I thought it was impressive when Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow was taking down guys in the Marvel movies. This girl put her to shame, just how fast she was going around and jumping, leaping, clawing, slashing, tumbling, going, in between people and under their legs and, around, jumping onto their chest, flipping over, flipping them over. She was just going nuts all the time.
You know who it reminded me of a lot is Chloe Grace Moretz in Kick-Ass, the first one.
Yeah, Hit Girl.
She Hit Girl made that movie. The rest of the movie was meh, but her action scenes were the best thing in that movie. They were startlingly good, which is, when I started watching that movie, it was on Netflix. It was one of the few things that they were actually streaming back then. I'm like, I didn't want to see it when it came out. I thought it would be making fun of superhero movies and things, back to the campy days. And I started watching it, and it pulled me in. And mostly because of her and her character was the most believable one in the movie. Not Nicolas Cage. But that was a twisty good movie. But this girl in this movie just made it believable. She just sold it, and she was so feral. You would believe she was raised in a lab and treated like an animal, and that's the way she behaved. And it was pretty touching at the end of the movie. Spoiler, when he's dying, and she finally called him daddy.
Yeah,
and I was like, as a father to two girls, I was like, oh, dagger or claw through the heart. Yeah, that was tough. That got me. I was like, I am not going to cry in a goddamn Wolverine movie. That is just not going to happen.
All right. So when that happened, right, they're there. They've got these people who are, who have created this X-24 mutant clone of Logan, all that kind of stuff. They've got that serum laying around, the stuff that helps them heal faster and all that kind of stuff. They've got all these crash trucks. He's dying. He's got a tree through his chest. Why don't they just go find another vial of that? Yeah, I know. Go for it.
Yeah,
let it rip.
All right. The one thing I don't like, when you create a universe, you have to stay true to the rules of your universe in order to not break the movie magic. Go back to Superman 2, when Superman's pulling out a giant plastic wrap thing, and he's doing all kinds of shit that Superman has never been able to do in the comics. But, it was written by Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather. He probably never read a Superman comic in his freaking life. So when you take the guy who's got unbreakable adamantium skeleton, unbreakable, can't be broken, and you have a tree trunk go through it, I throw my yellow flag and I blow the whistle. 15-yard penalty, breaking the movie magic, inconsistent use of established rules of your environment. So I woke up actually thinking about that this morning for some reason. At the time in the movie, it fit, like, oh, of course, and then you start thinking about it, and you're like, wait a minute, that wood is not going to penetrate his adamantium skeleton and pop out the front. It's just not going to happen.
Well, and even if it did, juice him up again and pull the thing out, watch him heal. He gets the crazy eyes for a few minutes, and then, everything's good. Those kids can hold him down. They've got plenty of power to go around.
Yeah, and he didn't seem to be that out of control anyway. He had a target for his rage, but he wasn't killing everybody. He wasn't killing the little kids. So
well, and he seems to be pretty used to dealing with all that rage anyway.
Yeah, so
a lifetime of kicking ass.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a perfect movie. It had some flaws. The thing you mentioned, the Professor X's whole diatribe about the lioness was stupid, awkward, didn't fit in the dialogue there, and didn't make any sense. But hey, he's an old senile man, so what are you gonna do? And then the tree trunk through the chest way of dying. I guess they were like, well, we just don't know how else to kill him at this point. They're in the woods. They've got to kill him somehow. Otherwise, right. We lose the movie magic at the end of the movie, the touching daddy scene. And it's probably would have been too difficult for them to come up with a giant vat of adamantium to pour on him. Like,
well, how they could have done it? A better ending for it, without a vat of adamantium. I don't think they should have gone there. But he's already dying, right? He's dying. It's a sickness or whatever. His body's not healing anymore. He essentially burns out from using the serum to boost himself. And then his body gives up at that point. He dies pretty much of just exhaustion or whatever at the end. That would have worked just as well,
It worked just as well, been more believable than the tree trunk thing. I mean, they could have had that Wolverine slam him down and then just really give him one more good, clawing right into the chest or something. Like,
But
a
yeah,
death
that's what I'm
knell
saying.
thing.
Like he's got so many wounds,
Yeah.
he's not recovering, and there's no more serum. Whatever. They go to grab it, and the truck, it's busted open and leaking into the ground. There's nothing there for them to do, and yeah, they could
That
have
would
gone
been
that
better.
way, and it would have kept things consistent. Because the only way that you can break adamantium is if you hit it with adamantium, right? The whole
Yeah.
adamantium bullet, which,
Right.
which, I'm just gonna say that right now. The very worst thing about the first Wolverine movie was the adamantium bullet, and they brought it back.
They brought it back, but this time it did a lot more devastating effect than just penetrate the back of the skull, hit, and then rattle around in there and give him amnesia.
Right.
It blew that dude's head off. But again, you know how healable Wolverine is. I'd be surprised if that guy wasn't able to heal from that. But
He didn't seem like he had the same healing factor. It seemed like the healing factor was only boosted when you injected him with that shit, because he was laying there after the first fight. His eye was all gooped up from being shot off, and
oh yeah,
and it
that's
wasn't
right.
until
That was
they
gnarly.
injected him.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was a gnarly scene. And that was another surprising scene. The death of Professor X. I didn't see that coming at all.
I kind of thought that was Logan at first.
I did too. I was like, what the hell? And then I'm like, oh, he must be dreaming. And for a minute there, my son was telling me the same thing. He was like, I thought it was a dream at first when the people were getting killed in the family. He was
Right.
like, oh, he must be just having a bad dream that he's brought, death and violence to them or something. And then,
Well, and they've gone back and they've said that he's got these dreams of hurting people. He even had a scene in this movie where you have a bad dream. Yeah, I have bad dreams that people are hurting me. Well, I have bad dreams that I'm hurting people. So
yeah,
it would have fit.
In the first X-Men movie, he gave old Rogue the claw through the chest,
Right.
waking up from a bad dream.
Yeah.
Yes. So good movie, lots of great scenes. The character who played, oh boy, I'm drawing, must be getting late because I'm getting a brain fart. Can't remember the character's name. Caliban. God.
Caliban. Yeah.
Caliban. Yes. Stephen Merchant. That dude's been in a lot of stuff. He has a show. He was in The Office.
Yes,
I guess,
he was.
or he was
The British
writer
Office.
on The Office. The British Office, yeah. And Hello Girls or something like Hello Ladies is a show
Yep.
on HBO, I think, or Showtime, one or the other.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of things.
Yeah. And he had a funny commercial he did for while he's walking around the streets, and he thinks everybody's looking at the ladies are all looking at him when they're actually looking at a car. So but he looked, at first I didn't recognize him. Like, I know that guy from somewhere. And
Yeah, I recognized him right off.
The scene with the grenade at the end was just great. I thought that was.
Stay away from the light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
He wasn't going to let them use him anymore, and what a way to go out. Take some of them with you when you go. So, and the funny thing is, they've had Caliban, the character, in the X-Men Apocalypse. So it's a completely different actor.
Yeah, I didn't know the character at all, so
I knew the character. I remember the character, but I remember the character as being one of the, I think one of the Morlocks or something like that, or whatever they were. They lived sort of underground. They were the mutants who had the really crappy, not so much superpowers, but the crappier side of mutantism, where they had to hide in the shadows and in the sewers and things.
I mean, they kind of dealt with that in the movie, right? With him having to hide from the sun, all that.
Yeah, but at one time he was the leader of a group that, I think it was the Morlocks. They were all underground, and they had a lot of deformities and things, and they've touched on some of them in several of the movies. So, but to see Caliban end up with them at the end, it was kind of interesting. His poor limo. That was cool. It made me wonder, did they design that limo just for this movie? Because it was pretty cool looking.
Yeah, the limo kind of looked like. I kept thinking it looked like the car from Final Fantasy 15. The car looks a lot like that in that game.
I wonder how much it cost to make a special production Caddy or whatever it was, or Lincoln, or I don't even know what it was.
Just do a kit car. fiberglass panels, or just you do it one off in the movie shop itself. You just start with a base model, and then mold panels and grills and all that kind of stuff. It shouldn't be that hard. Of course, you've got to come up with like 6 versions of it, so that as you're destroying it, you can do that, or different stunts have different cars and all that.
So it's a good movie. Tugged at the heartstrings at times. It was kind of sad to see the whole thing come to an end, because it really did start the superhero movie explosion of the last 20 years. The X-Men with Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, that really launched a franchise, launched everything that we see. Bryan Singer, the first one to really treat this stuff seriously and make money with it, and show people, if you treat these Marvel characters seriously and you flesh them out more, you can make money with this, and you can build a franchise. So to see that come to an end, kind of sad, but it was a good way to go. They ended with a bang.
Well, I mean, they ended the Logan's run, Hugh Jackman's run as Logan, but they just set up, a whole future full of brand new mutants. These young mutants going to live in Canada, and this whole Haven with Eden. What's going on with that? Are there older mutants there? In Haven, who's running that? How does that work? So if they wanted to do X-Men franchises for years and years to come, they could do that. Them taking the cross and turning it to the side with an X for Logan's grave was a kind of nice touch. But in my mind, I was seeing that comic that I was talking to you earlier about, where when Logan gets ripped to shreds and gets his adamantium ripped off his body, and they bury the pieces, and then the next comic shows like his claw coming out of the dirt as his healing factor kicks in finally and heals him up, and he comes clawing out of the dirt. They could easily do that again if they really wanted to.
Yeah, never say never, but I think he's done. I think Hugh Jackman's done anyway. So
one last thing. Before we wrap the whole thing up, I wanted to talk about, it wasn't really a trailer at the beginning of the movie, but it was played before the movie, and that was a very special Superman scene by Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, the Deadpool trailer.
Yeah, the Deadpool trailer. So if you haven't seen it yet, you should go and find it online. You can just look at the Logan Deadpool trailer. It's hilarious. He goes and tries to change in a phone booth, and shows how ridiculous that whole thing is. Breaking the whole fourth wall thing again. The reason that we really love Wolverine, not Wolverine. God damn it, Deadpool.
Time to make the chimichangas.
Yeah. So. And then, him just hanging out with the dead guy at the end.
Having some yogurt or ice cream or whatever he was saying.
It was Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's, yes.
He goes, brain freeze. Don't you hate that? Oh, it's, what am I complaining about? You're way worse off.
Yeah, it was slightly different than the online version, the one at the theater. They cut out some things, they added some things, and it was just a little bit different. But like the whole Zip It Stan Lee, that wasn't in the one they played in the movie theater for us. So I really enjoyed that. I can't wait to see Deadpool 2. It'd be great if he could get Hugh Jackman to reprise it. There's no reason he can't, because that takes place in the past. The nice thing about killing him off in the future is if he wants to do other movies, he could still do movies in our timeline, still fill in things that happen. So
yeah,
they could even go back and revisit the whole killing off of all the mutants and why there's only a handful of them left. They can make that into another movie if they want to, kind of like the Days of Future Past redux, if you will.
I don't know. I kind of felt like Logan was set in a different universe.
Yeah, I mean they went back with Days of Future Past at the end, and they rebooted everything and created an alternate timeline.
And they set everything on a happy path where everyone lives.
Yeah. They tried to undo the damage that Brett Ratner did to the franchise with that horrible X-Men United.
He
X-Men
royally
3
screwed
movie.
that.
Oh, it's like he intentionally hated the Fox or something. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make this movie and I'm gonna screw everything up. Cyclops, goodbye, right off the bat.
Jean Grey,
That is-
goodbye. You know, half the mutants out there dead.
Yeah, that movie was such a. I can't believe how bad that movie was. But you know, it's what we had at the time.
Yep.
So, but without the X-Men, we wouldn't have been able to get probably Iron Man and the Avengers and these other great movies. Deadpool, for
Deadpool.
sure. Absolutely. And they didn't even want to do Deadpool. He had to beg and plead in 10 years of trying to get this damn thing made.
He had to leak the trailer out online to get fan interest, so you know, to force the studio's hand to do it.
Yeah.
You know he leaked it.
Oh yeah, and I don't blame him. And it was a good thing he did. Good for us because I love that movie. I watch it over and over and over, and it just tickles my funny bone in the right places.
All
In
right.
the right dirty places down low.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. So,
All right.
this has been a geek spoiler for
Spoiler alert.
Legion episode 6 and the movie Logan. And
So to recap, Professor X dies, Logan dies, Chuck Berry dies. That's what we got tonight. Hey.
yeah. So follow us at Grizzle Geeks on Twitter, at Twitch TV/Grizzle Geeks to get alerts for live showtimes, and Facebook and YouTube. The channel's name is Grizzle Geeks. I'm Mitch.
And I'm Todd. And don't be so anonymous. Leave us some comments. We'd like to get comments from people.
Yeah, and thank you so much for viewing and watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. All right. Good night.